Hello, small saints. We have reached the third Sunday in Lent, the third Sunday in that purple section of our chart. Um, this Sunday, we shift from the Gospel of Mark, which is pretty much the gospel we'll be in for this church year, and we go to the Gospel of John. And when I read the gospel for this week, I can't help thinking of that song from Mr. Rogers when he sings, "What do you do with the mad that you feel when you feel so mad you could bite?" Because in this week's gospel, Jesus gets mad. So let's read about it and talk about that just a little bit. The Holy Gospel of our Savior Jesus Christ according to John. Jesus was in Jerusalem at Passover time, and he went to the temple. There he found people selling cows and sheep and doves for the temple sacrifice, and money exchangers. It made him angry. He took a whip and chased everyone out of the temple, even the sheep and cows and doves. Then he went around and flipped over the tables that people were sitting at to exchange money. He shouted, "Why are you in my Father's house pretending it's a place to make money instead of seeing it as God's special place? What do you think you're doing? Are you crazy?" said the Jews who saw all this. Jesus said, "If you destroy this temple, I will put it back together in 3 days." The gospel of our Savior. So, what was Jesus so mad about? I mean, for people to make sacrifices in the temple at Passover, which was required of every Jew, they had to have a certain kind of coin, the temple coin, when what they would have brought into them would have been whatever money they would have used, like in the marketplace. And so they had to exchange that in order to get one of these coins to buy one of the animals that was sacrificed as part of the Passover celebrations. So if it's required, why is Jesus so upset about it? Well, I think there are a couple of things that we can think of with this. One is that the part of the temple that Jesus cleared with his whip and drove out those money changers and sellers of animals, that area was called the court of the Gentiles. Now, the Gentiles were the non-Jews. It doesn't mean that they did not get along with the Jews. It was just the area where they could be, because further in the temple, there was a place for women, there was a place for men, there was a place for the priests, and then there was like the holiest of places within the temple where no one could go except the high priest. And so this outer court, anybody could be in. And the way they were treating it, with this kind of chaos of selling animals, and sometimes the money changers were not very fair in their dealings with the people, and they would not give them a good exchange rate for the coins that they brought in. And when Jesus walked into the temple, I mean, whether it's the court of the Gentiles or the holiest place in the temple, Jesus is saying, this is God's house. And you need to treat it as God's house, and not cheat people out of something, and not treat it like it's just a place where you come and it's not the market where you go and buy your food and things. This is a holy place, even if it's outside of where the rest of the Jews could be. And so he felt that people were being mistreated, and that God's house there's a way that we are to be in God's house, which is respectful of one another and focused on the fact that this is where, for the Jews in that temple, that's where God dwells. Now, we know God is everywhere, but there's a special relationship that we have with God in our place of worship when we go into our church. I think there is this sense that the prayers of people who have prayed there through the decades, they're all kind of surrounding us, and that there's a special feeling to being in God's house. And so Jesus was really angry that people were not paying attention to the fact that this was a holy place. But then he also says an interesting thing when they challenge him and they say, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Destroy this temple, and I will rebuild it in 3 days." Now, we all know what happens in 3 days. When Jesus dies on the cross, 3 days later, the resurrection happens. And so what he's talking about here is that he is the new temple, that no longer will those who follow him, no longer will they need to go to the temple, that his body is that, and that those who follow him will be following God. And so that's what that 3 days refers to. But I like to talk about this story about the time that we know, and there may have been other times, but this was the time that was written down in every gospel account of Jesus's life, that he got really mad. And he didn't get mad because somebody took a toy or he didn't get his way. He got mad because people were not treating each other fairly. They were not treating each other as neighbors, as he says they're supposed to, and they were being disrespectful. They were not honoring God in God's house. So it's important to remember, there are plenty of ways that we can handle the anger that we have. And in this case, Jesus took that whip and turned over tables, and that was his expression of anger. And in some ways, I get comforted by that, to know that, there are times when I get angry too. And I hope that my anger is mostly directed, or comes mostly when I witness things that just aren't right in this world and that we need to make right. So that is my message for you on this third Sunday in Lent. And again, I hope that you're all doing well. I can't wait until maybe as the weather warms up, we'll bump into each other on the street or in the park. It would be great to see you. Hugs to all of you, and I'll see you soon.